So that's my timeline here. We talk about virtual kickoffs, and we'll talk about event day and checkout. But this is kind of the timeline that I'll be referring to from throughout the presentation today. So let's dive in. Let's start talking about the hybrid event. I've got about 10, I think, steps in building a hybrid event and actually executing it. So the first thing is the communication strategy. It's not exactly the most glamorous step, but it's one of the most important in my opinion. We saw a lot of organizations have to really embrace new things in 2020. So of course, when you're out of your comfort zone, you really pay a lot of attention to everything. And so organizations that paid a lot of attention to their communication strategies did really well at their events because everything was virtual. We had to tell people when the event was, how to do things online, that you needed to take a few steps before the event, when you came to the event virtually. There was a lot more information that needed to be shared. When you do in-person events, you can kind of lean on the fact that everybody just shows up, at the in-person venue. But in this case, everything was in the air. So we worked with an organization to build this communication agenda, and we have this available on our website under the hybrid event resources page. You can download this PDF, and there's really nothing that special about it. It's a PDF with a bunch of dates and suggested communications. But what's important about it is that it forces you to start thinking. Again, we're 2 months out before the event. Sometimes, maybe even a little bit more. We're thinking about, I'm going to send a save the date. I'm going to send a press release. I'm going to talk about the fact that we can now accept donations on our virtual venue or a landing page in the auction launch day. It really makes you think about these, and you can actually put dates down. Now, I recommend doing this, printing it, putting it on a wall, and then revisiting it each week. It's not that you have to have every single date up front, but it gets you thinking about it. Because as we're in the weeds of building this event, we think about it every day a lot. And so we forget that nobody else is thinking about it as much as we are. So it's important to keep the communication going. So as a general rule of thumb, we feel that if you have something important to say, very tangible, then you go ahead and say it. You put it out there. A new auction item just came in the door. We have a new guest speaker showing up at the event. Tickets are running out. 2 more weeks before the event. Things that are really relevant, people won't be bothered by because it's information that, hey, they wanted me to know this, and this is actually, it's not a marketing email. And I even recommend, styling your titles of your emails to really call out those tangible things so people don't just blow them off as, this is just another weekly blah, blah update. There actually is things for me to read, or are things for me to read in this email. So again, the communication strategy is really important, not exactly as glamorous as other parts of the process, but it certainly gets you thinking about how to tell everybody in your donor database that this event exists, because you don't have to attend to be a part of this event. You can attend remotely, and we'll talk a lot about that. So the next step is the event landing page, or what we've kind of coined around here is the virtual venue. This, like the physical venue, is a single place that everybody is going to go to learn about your event, to do things for your event, to participate, to make payments, and so on. This is your virtual venue. You can see here in my screen or my slide that I have a web address. And this is our format. It's event.cbo.io, nice and short and sweet. The event gets replaced with whatever keyword you've chosen. This is the page that you send people to for everything. Buying a ticket, they go to this page. Registering to bid in the auction, they go to this page. Want to make a donation, go to this page. Check out the auction items, go to this page. Everything that they do goes to that page. It's a single place that they can go to. Much, again, like the physical venue, everybody's going to go to that place. And there's no doubt about that. And that's what we want to do. When you send out emails, just continuously use that link in those communications. And we make it easy. We put it on your admin welcome page. You can just copy it, paste it into all of your emails. So this is just an example of a very simple landing page. We call them a single page site. That way people can digest all the information in one page without having to leave and go other places. Now next, as soon as you get that landing page setup. And again, in the beginning, it is going to be mostly informative. We're not actually asking anybody to take action. Think of it like a save the date card that you get in the mail, just letting you know that the event's coming up and these are the things that we're going to be doing down the road. But as the event takes shape from that 2 months to we get to the opening weekend, that landing page is going to evolve. That's what's really nice about the landing page is it doesn't cost you anything to accept a little bit of time to make changes and add really cool dynamic things to it, such as a donation form, the ticket page, and so on. But in the beginning, it's more informative and it will take on more dynamic shape as you go along. The next thing it will take on, of course, is the event tickets. You can go ahead and set up individual tickets, couples tickets, sponsorships, underwriting, allow people to make donations. And one ticket type that I would recommend is a virtual or remote ticket. People sometimes can't attend your event. Even in the best of times, people are spread around, very diverse donor base globally, potentially. And so historically, they just haven't been able to go, and that's been okay. It is what it is. We wish you could be here, but you just can't make it. Maybe we'll have a highlights video at the end that we can put on YouTube. In this case, because of the hybrid style of our events going forward, you can let them watch the broadcast of the program. Now, I'll kind of outline that a little bit more, but when I say program, I really mean the time in your in-person event when the director stands up to start talking about the charity, to tell people why they're here, all those kind of things, so that, and then do the, giving an award and letting a sponsor speak, doing the live auction, the appeal, and then the end of the auction or the end of the event, that program portion, not the meal or check-in or the open bar. So letting people indicate that they would like to be a part of that remote experience is really, really helpful. And you can even monetize it because it is very tangible. And what we saw in 2020 is people do give. A lot of money was raised when people couldn't attend events. In fact, when we ran live auctions, which is probably one of the most complicated pieces to bring to an internet audience, is that real-time back and forth, high stakes bidding and fast talking. Even that raised significant dollars that wouldn't have been raised had we not done virtual events. And so people do, they give online. So it's really important to give them an option so that they don't say, oh, I can't make it on that date, so I guess we're not going to go. And then they write it off. So giving them a chance to do that. The other thing that a ticket page does is it starts that data path of people who will be participants in your event. Ultimately, we want bidders. We want people who will participate in the silent auction, the live auction, and the fund a need. So we want to start them at the ticket process and then move them through into the bidder process. And so I have a screenshot here of kind of a flow chart of how people become bidders in our system. There's 4 kind of primary ways. One of them is to register on our landing page or the virtual venue. And that's a free process. There's no price associated with it. It's just, I'm coming to the event or I want to bid right now. This isn't tied to any kind of purchase. Then there's the kind of the old standard importing data from another source like Razor's Edge, Bloomerang, Neon. You can import that data through a different source or an even other ticket page. And then you have integrations. We have certain integrations with software companies that let you import data from their platforms. But the one that I'm really focused on here is the ticket sale. I buy 4 tickets, one for myself, one for my wife, and for 2 daughters. We are 4 registered guests. So I have this bucket in ClickBid of registered guests. It's going to continue to populate with more and more people, hopefully hundreds of people. And at some point over that 2-month period, once we get closer to the beginning of the event, I want these people to tell me if they're going to be bidders in the auction. Now, remember, in my case, I bought 4 tickets. Well, out of us 4 individuals who are all going to need a meal, all going to need a table assignment, but not all of us are going to need a bidder number. My 2 daughters might be too young. They might not be, interested in bidding, and I certainly don't want them bidding. But maybe I'll bid with my wife, but we'll bid only under one number. So that way it's not confusing and we're competing against each other. So at a certain point, I'm going to send a automated message that just blasts out to everybody in my guest bucket and say, hey, if you want to participate in the auction, tap this link and start participating. And that will convert them into bidders. It'll ask them to put their credit cards on file. It'll ask them to confirm any contact information that we don't yet have, and they'll be participating. This is a really great way to fill up your bidder bucket over here of bidders who are qualified, have payment information, and will be incredibly low maintenance once they get into the system. And so my next screen is an actual screenshot of our admin. This is our manage guests page. In other practice runs that I've done earlier in this week, I would actually take you to the admin, but I learned that I would spiral, way off topic as I dig through boxes and things like that. So I don't want to do that today with everybody on. I want to try and stay focused. So I took a screenshot to kind of fence myself in a little bit. But what I want to show you is, let's see here that Steve Garsh bought 8 tickets. And I have first names for everybody that he bought tickets for. But I only have a last name for 2 of them and an email address for 2 of them. And even over here, I have some meal choices: filet, lobster, vegetarian, and then unspecified. So I want to, over that 2-month period, so I launched my ticket page, I want to work to fill in as much of this data as possible, because really what I want is a first name, a last name, and an email address. With an email address, I can send messages to all of my guests and encourage them to participate in the auction. Well, the good news is this is a very easy page to use. You can just click in these boxes and make changes. So if I get Steve on the phone and say, hey, Steve, I need to know the last 2 people in your party, did you have those names and email addresses? And do you have the meal choices? But what's better than that is that when Steve bought tickets, he was given an email automatically that said, hey, Steve, when you think of those other people that are part of your party, tap on this link and you can fill it out yourself. In fact, we can even resend that link to Steve, 2 or 3 weeks away from the event, and say, hey, Steve, you didn't give us every name. Help us out and get those names. So he can fill it out on his end. I can fill it out on my end. And by the time this is all done, I have a full meal count. I have table assignments that I can make. And now this data is really coming together. I can tell the caterer what I need, and then we can go from there. So this is where you'll spend a good amount of your time over those 2 months, filling in this data and planning out that overhead of, where your tables are placed and who's at what table and so on. And as we get closer, we're going to use this data to migrate people into our auction. Which brings us to the auction. This is step 4, and this is kind of simultaneous with the registered guests. We need to build an auction. We want a good selection of auction items. I would usually see, I want to say, well, I said 84 items was an average. So yeah, anywhere between 84 and 150 items is pretty standard for our events. And traditionally, people will show up at the office, they'll bring in a signed surfboard. I always say signed guitar, so I thought I'd try a surfboard this time. And the challenge, of course, is I need to write a description. I need to figure out what this thing is worth so that we can put a market value on it. I need to take some pictures. But we also have 2 additional ways to collect auction items that I think can really help. Now, remember when I said your virtual venue, that landing page really starts out as a marketing piece, and then it slowly starts to turn more dynamic and interactive and functional to really help you as an assistant to build your event. This is a classic example of that. And what it does is it allows people to put in their own details. I can go to the landing page and I can fill out a title, a market value. I can put descriptions, exceptions. I can even take pictures and upload them. And what happens is when I fill out this form and submit it, it actually creates an auction item in my ClickBid account. Now, it sets the item to invisible, so you don't automatically start auctioning it. You still need to do things like set a closing time, create an increment, and a starting bid. But the really important details, fair market value, description, photos, that can be done for you. The other thing that you can do that we have a partnership with is an organization called Travel Pledge. Now, I do want to actually switch over here and show you their website. Travel Pledge is an organization that they collect auction items from around the world, regionally, which is great when you're looking for something kind of local that can appeal to your donor base, but then also stuff that's really cool and exciting cruises, wine tours, that kind of thing. And you can add them seamlessly, just like somebody adding it on the landing page. You can go through this curated list and pick the items you want for free, and they will automatically be sent over to ClickBid so that they can be added to your auction catalog. All you need to do is set a closing time and make them active, and that's it. So a lot of that data is set up for you. And this is a great, we really, we've worked with a lot of organizations like Travel Pledge, and we really like them because they really understand the nonprofit world of fundraising and helping charities raise money and actually do good by the people who purchase those items so that they actually get to receive them. So, and our integration is incredibly seamless. It's a free account to set up, and the time you pay for those items is when you actually sell them. So I just wanted to call those two out, and I'll give you a little bit of preview of what's coming up once we get to that point. So back to our slideshow, you can get those two methods going for creating auction items, and then another screenshot of our admin, you can see them listed in the manage items. So just like we had managed guests, you can also manage your auction items. And you can quickly edit them just by clicking on these boxes, changing the numbers, making them update, and so on. And then you can make them active. And the good news is that as you're building this catalog, they don't all have to be done and ready the day you launch your event, because we're going to tell you to launch early. You can still be working on a couple, and you can even leave them inactive. So that way, let's say this signed surfboard is on, I've got it in my office, but I don't really know how much it's worth, and I'm still collecting data on it. So I put it in my catalog, but I'm not ready to open it up yet. So middle of the week I will, but I'll just leave it inactive, and I can manage all of that inside of my auction item. And I got real trigger happy here with my mouse. So this is a great page for managing those auction items, a lot like managing your guests. So now we've spent those last 2 months working on that guest data, and we've spent that last 2 months working on auction items. So we have a catalog of guests and items, and we're ready to get going. So where we are today in our example is that I am on a Friday before the week of my event. And I say week of my event because I do want people, I think one thing that really happened well in the pandemic for virtual fundraising, which is hard to think of anything that happened well during the pandemic, but organizations thought outside of the ballroom for the first time in mass. So, we focus, we put our energy in, think of all the things that you have to do for an in-person event: catering, valet, liquor license, venue, food, all the stuff that has to happen, floral arrangements, entertainment. And so it's really easy to just say this event is on Saturday from 6 till 10 p.m. But in reality, you can open your event early because everything is virtual, everything's online. There's no reason why you have to just limit it to a Saturday night and try to raise all your money in a 4-hour window. You can open the auction a week early. And there's a lot of advantages to that. It really does promote activity from people who will get used to the platform Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, so that when they get to the event, they're not thinking about trying to learn how to use their phone. They've already been bidding all week long, getting notices, getting messages, emails. They're basically all fully engaged at that point. So it's really helpful, not only from a fundraising standpoint, but from a user standpoint. It gets people engaged. Now, what I would do is step one, I would send a mass email using ClickBid's mass messaging service to all of my registered guests who were not already bidders. I maybe converted some to bidders, some people who bought tickets, kept their cards on file, they're already bidders. But anybody who's a registered guest that's not a bidder yet, I'm going to send them an email on Friday and say, hey, for our guests who signed up, we're opening the auction early. Don't tell anyone. Click this link if you want to bid, and you can just go ahead and start bidding right away. So it sends me to a page where if I'm missing any data, it'll ask me for it. If I'm requiring credit card, it'll ask me for that. And then I can start bidding in the silent auction a couple of days early. So that's going to capture a bunch of people and convert them into bidder accounts. Then on Saturday, I'm going to do it again. This time though, on Saturday, I'm going to send an email that says, hey, join us on Monday morning at 9:30. We're actually going to have our full launch, and we're going to hear from the director of the foundation, and they're going to tell us this really cool surprise. So at 9:30, don't forget to log into Bid. And I'm going to send that to people who have not yet created a bidder number. And then they're going to get more people. And then on Sunday, I'm going to send, or early Monday morning, I'm going to send an email to everybody, to all of my bidders. And I'm going to say, hey, everyone, the auction is official opening at 9:30 a.m. Be sure to tune in, log in to Bid, and you will see a video from our director welcoming you to the event. So 9:30, I'm in my software, I'm on my phone, browsing auction items, and all of a sudden, automatically, a video screen pops up, and the director is looking at me. What the director has to do is just go into their office, like I am here, set up their laptop, open it up, log into the admin like you can see here on my screen, and all I have to do is click on this Open Broadcaster button. So if I click on that, it will open up this window. Now, I don't want to do an actual demo because I'm doing my webinar with you now, and I don't want to have any kind of technical issues. You're trying to do two technically webinars at one time. But I pressed the start button, and now I'm broadcasting. That's all I had to do. I didn't have to know any codes. I didn't have to understand how video broadcasting works. I just opened up the web broadcaster and hit start. And I'm going to tell everybody who's attending, I'm going to say, hey, everyone, I'm Matt from the ClickBid Foundation. So excited to be here with everybody. This is going to be an amazing event this week. We're looking forward to having you participate. Get those bids in now so that when you get to the event, you can party, have a good time, set those max bids and let the system bid for you. And then you don't even have to think about it. And in fact, I want to let everybody know that the first person to bid on any of our auction items will be entered to win a giveaway on Saturday night. So be the first one to bid on our auction items and you'll be entered to win. Everybody have a great week. We look forward to reaching out to you before then, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday. And then you hit stop, and that's it. So you've done a really quick impromptu announcement or a welcome. It's really nice because your donors get a real view of the president or the board chair or whoever you want to do it. We've learned, again, over the last year, everybody's done a Zoom call, and we've all seen the inside of people's homes, or at least some of them, or their offices, or their car if they're stuck in traffic. Then, we've seen all that, so we're used to it, and it makes things more real. We've associated that with people being real where they are. Plus, I just told everybody that if they place the first bid, they're going to win something. Now, having done events for the last 20 years, I know one of the things I hear a lot is an exasperated auction chair saying, I do not want to take any of these items home tonight. I want every single one of these in somebody else's car than mine, because I've been sitting on these things for 2 months and I'm sick of it. So you've just given everybody a reason to bid on something. And even if it's not something they necessarily were going to bid on anyway, they'll either get it for a really good deal or they helped raise a lot, but at least they helped raise a lot of money. And they've gotten that first bid in there. So again, promote. You have that full week to send out emails. If that surfboard that I was talking about finally goes online, that's a perfect email. If you went to Travel Pledge and picked up another really cool golf package, that's another email. It's a Facebook tweet. It's a TikTok video. It's whatever you want, but it's going to be some good material that you can use to market. And I talked about sending out emails. We have a mass messaging service. You can see here under bidders, you have email and text bidders. You can send them both emails and text. The first email that I recommended you send was to ticketed guests with no bidder number. Now, what we're looking at here is our email bidder page and a section of pre-composed emails. So that I didn't have to try and scramble on Friday when I wanted to send this out, I looked at my communication strategy that I started a long time ago, and I say, oh, I got to send my welcome email out on that Friday. I can pre-compose that message. I can write it down in my software and then save it. So that way on Friday, all I have to do is take a quick look at it and hit send. Now, our system, they have some really cool tools in there for what are called short codes. You can insert a person's first name. You can insert their customized bidding link, which takes them directly to their bid site without having to know how to open a browser, without having to know what address to type in. That can all be inserted into these emails and text messages, and all you have to do is press send it. So let's say you proposed all these with your board when they met last week, so now everybody has buy-in. So this is a really cool feature, and it tracks and tells you who got it, who opened it, and so on. Now, event check-in. We talk a lot about, with our in-person events, we talk a lot about the chaos of running an actual live event. And, during COVID, we didn't have that chaos because there weren't any live events. In fact, when we did our virtual events, it was almost anticlimactic. We would broadcast for our charities sometimes. If they hired us to do the broadcasting, we would broadcast on a Tuesday night or a Saturday night or a Friday night. And it went really well, thankfully. Things went really well. Fundraising was done and everything. But it was almost like this was easy. Like there should be more to it. But and so we're looking at that. Of course, we asked, why was it so easy? And a lot of it was because we did a lot of work up front. By the time we did our final broadcast on the day of the event, we'd already done 2 tech rehearsals of full-blown practices, got everybody in the same Zoom meeting so that we could watch it and practice it, so that when the event actually happened, so much work had already been done that the event just smoothly rolled on through. So my dream is to take that, which is really nice and less stress, into our in-person events this fall. Now, we're going to get hundreds of people back into a ballroom. And historically, over the last 20 years of doing these, they all show up at the same time. They all have to stand at a table and give us their last name. We look them up. We swipe their card. We tell them what their table assignment is and send them on their way to the bar. But what if I could take that 500 people and either completely eliminate it, which would be, wonderful, or I could at least cut that number down so dramatically that the number of on-site support staff that you needed was at least half of what you originally needed. Or if you didn't want to use on-site support, we also recommend working with volunteers because ClickBid is crazy simple and it's very easy to train people how to use our system. I've done it, I don't know how many times, hundreds of times, training people how to use our system. So what we created, drum roll please, is the pre-event check-in tool, and it's really, really easy to use. We kind of modeled it after, Expedia. When you fly on a flight, when you land, it sends you an email that says, "How was your flight?" Happy face, frowny face. Google does that when you go to an appointment. Did you like your appointment? Did you not like? And now when we're eating at restaurants, sometimes you have to scan a QR code and order your meal right from your table. So our entire donor database is prepped for this kind of check-in. All you have to do in your admin is choose a date and time when you want to start asking people if they're planning to attend, and we'll do the rest. Send them a text message using that mass messaging service I showed you a screen ago, where you can say, "Hey, let us know you're coming to the event, tap this link." And you tap the link and it takes you immediately. I tapped the link, I didn't go anywhere else. I came right to this screen that says, "Welcome, Matt Burnell. Are you planning to attend our event?" In a little bit of gray down here, it says for in-person attendance. I can say yes or no, and then continue. This tells me, the organization, that Matt's planning on attending, or it tells me that Matt is planning on attending remotely. So this is great help. In fact, in the text message, I even went a little bit further. I said, "Hey, check in now from your phone and go right to the bar when you go to your event." That's a huge motivator. Wait, because I always say the check-in table is always between your guests and the bar. So you do not want to make people wait. And so by doing it this way, you just completely bypass that. Now imagine, instead of needing, that's the biggest need for our on-site support, is having enough people at the check-in tables to handle 600, 700, 800 guests. Now you're only handling half that. So your needs go way down. The next step is that bidding phase. Once we've gone through check-in, now we're at the event now, and this is what I like to call the eye of the storm, or hopefully more like a sprinkle. This is where everybody's mingling, they're socializing, drinking, looking at auction items in the foyer of the venue before they go in to be seated and have the dinner program. there's not a whole lot to do. I like this phase because it gives you a chance to breathe a little bit, get acclimated, maybe grab a drink from the volunteer room. But I think the thing that really is nice in this phase is to make sure you're set up for the live, the fund a need, and the checkout. Because, I can't overemphasize that, being ready for all of these stages is critical. 10 minutes in advance, and that's 10 full minutes of me seated at a table waiting for somebody to come up and request help for checkout or the live auction. And even if I'm staffing check-in, being ready, because as the first person goes, so goes the rest of your check-in experience. And so if the first couple of people come in and cruise right on through, then everybody's going to come in and cruise right on through. So that's really important during that phase. Now, one other thing you can do here, I will mention is, I'll often walk around the room and ask people if they need any help. But the nice thing is they've already been bidding. Remember, we opened the auction early. We've given them enough opportunities to bid. They're already familiar with the software. So 99% of the time, people tell me, oh yeah, I'm good. If you, and I tell them, if you have any questions, happy to help. The only question they usually have is, when does the auction close, or when does the meal start? So now we get to one of the bigger pieces of the hybrid event experience, and that is the broadcast. During COVID, everything was done this way. So you can see the screenshot here I have of Leon. He's talking, and underneath, I'm bidding. I can swipe up and down, tap on items. Leon stays right where he's at. He keeps talking. We see videos. We see an auction, and so on. And I can keep bidding on those things. I don't have to jump to another screen or jump to a laptop or whatever. Now, I can still broadcast this on a television if I want to do a screening party. But if I'm by myself, at home, or I'm on the go, I can watch and, participate at the same time. Now, this was quite an undertaking for some charities, but for all charities, because they took their entire gala experience and put together materials, videos and coordinating things. We don't want you to have to do double the work in the fall. So the very easiest thing that you can do is, again, like I alluded to earlier, you have a program. You're already planning that program. The director of the organization is going to stand up, talk about the charity. This will happen after dinner. They'll do, a couple of, learning things about what we did last year, how we weathered COVID, what we're planning to do this year, our building projects, give away an award, have a sponsor speak, have a donor speak, give some testimony, all of that. And then we'll move on to the live, the appeal, and the end of the program. That portion is what you want to broadcast to everybody who couldn't attend, who said they would attend remotely, or people who bought a virtual ticket. That's what they were tuning into. So if your doors open at 6 and the program starts after dinner at, say, 7:30, everybody tunes in at 7:30 to watch the program. And everybody, meaning everybody not at your event, because everybody at your event will tune in, because that's what they'll be doing. But the good news is, anybody that's using, let's see if I have, yeah, perfect. Anybody that's, setting up a venue knows that, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure why this is, but they always put the AV team in the back right corner of almost all ballrooms. I don't know if that's a rule or something, but you're hiring an AV team. If you're using a ballroom or a conference center, they'll have an in-house AV team that's going to set up probably a stage. They're going to set up a screen on the left, a screen on the right, and a camera in the back. And that's because you have people over here on the wings and in the back who probably won't be able to see the stage as well as everybody here in the middle and up front. So they do what's called image magnification. There's a camera and it points at the person on the stage and gives them a nice big look here on these screens. Well, this AV team is already doing all that work for you. All they need to do is add one more screen and it's your phone. So they just add your phone screen as the third option. And it's even easier than that, because our IT team will talk to their IT team and will help you set that up, because all it takes is a laptop, cable, and a couple of button clicks, and we're broadcasting whatever the AV team is putting on those screens. So you didn't have to produce any more material. You didn't have to, secure any more talent. Everything's already planned for you. because they set up the camera and they're already doing the image magnification. We're already sending that to the screens, and we're going to send it to the internet as well. And that's all there is to it. It's very simple to do. So this is how you can then engage that audience from home. And like I said, you definitely want to do that because people give virtually. We saw that all last year, and people will continue to give. So people who couldn't attend, who have never been able to attend, are now there. And our partnership with a video broadcasting company gives us the ability to display this data in real time. So the speed that you're used to on a Zoom call when you're sharing thoughts and comments back and forth and having meetings, that's the same speed that we're broadcasting this. And so a live auction, a fund a need, they can all happen in real time. You don't have, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 30-second delays like you maybe had with YouTube or Facebook. We get one half of a second delay. So when the auctioneer says, "Do I hear 500?" everybody at home is hearing, "Do I hear 500?" So that way there's no disadvantage to placing a bid at home as there is to raising a paddle in the room. And let's take a look at that. This is another piece of that. So I'll go through it really quick, and then I want to do just a quick demo that I have set up. And this is the one place where I'll actually go to our software. So on the screen right here, this is called our Manage Your Event Stream screen. Too many S words there. So you can see here I have a live broadcast of my auctioneer. That's being sent up to the 2 big screens, but it's also being sent to everybody at home. And so right now we're doing the signed guitar. I've probably used signed guitar, like that is, someday I am going to auction off a real signed guitar. And so I've got a spotter. When you hire an auctioneer, you usually get 1 or 2 spotters. They stand around the room with those yellow light up cones. They wave them in the air when somebody raises a paddle so the auctioneer can see them. They help the auctioneer so that, if somebody's in the back of the room, the auctioneer doesn't miss the person with their paddle in the air to make a bid or a donation. One of those spotters would be seated at a computer, and they would be running the screen because they're going to be the liaison between everybody at home and in the room. So they're going to be bringing that data back and forth between the auctioneer and everybody at home. So I'm going to click on an item, I'm going to open it, and I'll show you how this works in just a second. And I'm going to auction off all of these items at home and in person, and it's going to run seamlessly because, again, we have that very, very, very low latency, no latency delay. And latency is just meaning delay. There's no delay in that. And then we're going to transition smoothly from the paddle raise or from the live auction to the paddle raise. And everybody at home is going to be able to follow along just like they do in the real paddle raise. The auctioneer is going to say, let's start at 2,500. If you can give 2,500, then, let's go to 1,000. If you can give 1,000, and then 500, and then 250, and then 150, and so on. And so that's all going to be followed through in the in the room and at home. So let's take a quick look here. I'm going to send a refresh to my screen here. Get my mouse back. My cursor goes away. Let me just do a quick refresh. And pardon me one moment. It's funny. I did this meeting yesterday with my team, and I was worried that this was going to happen, and it did. My mouse gets lost. Well, if I can't get it back, I'll just go back to my demo here, or my PowerPoint. Here we go. Come on. One more time. Well, that's a bummer. Well, you know what? Oh, that's a real drag. My mouse has lost sync with my computer, so thought I had it. Okay. There. Wasn't lost. I got it. One of these things always throws me off. Okay. So I'm wearing 2 hats right now. So I've got one hat, which is the bidder. I'm a bidder at home, sitting on my couch. I'm watching the program. Now, I'm not broadcasting the program right now because just like my silly mouse went on the fritz with me. I don't want my computer to go on the fritz with me if I'm broadcasting in my webinar and I'm broadcasting in ClickBid at the same time. So we're gonna kind of pretend that there is an auctioneer here at the top of the screen, just like Leon was in that previous slide. And then this hat on this side of the screen is I'm wearing the hat of volunteer or spotter. The auctioneer says, okay, we're gonna auction off a parking spot. So I'm sitting in the back of the room and I click on parking spot. It's gonna open that item up and then I'm gonna press start. The auctioneer says, okay, folks, this is an incredible opportunity. You get a full year parking at the front of the school parking lot, yours and yours alone. We're gonna put your name on it. So let's start the bidding at $500. Do I see $500? Now, let me switch hats back to the people at home. I see the bid live button. And you see it's kind of pulsing, so it's in my face. And again, the auctioneer is talking to me and I'm staring at my screen and he says, okay, click on the bid live button. And I go, oh, well, that's the one that's kind of like moving up and down here. So I click on that. And now I have a $500 bid I can place at home. And I'm watching the auctioneer in this section here that says, do I see $500, $500, you know, the thing that they do. And I press, yeah, I'll do 500. So I'm at home and I placed a bid for 500. Now I'm at switch hats. I'm now the spotter at the room of the ballroom and I see $500. So I wave my paddle in the air or my light in the air and the auctioneer says, all right, we got our first bid at $500 on the internet. Now, do I see 550, 550 folks? And now somebody in the room's like, yep, I'm going to do 550. So then I press the submit button and now I get a 550 floor bid. So I just logged that as the volunteer so that at home, I'm like, oh, I just got outbid. So I switch hats. Now I'm at home. I'll do 600. And so now I have $600 and I'm winning. And the auction, I put my paddle in the air and I'm representing, again, I'm the liaison between at home and in person. And I'm waving my paddle in the air for the auctioneer. And he says, oh, we got $600, people, $600 from the internet. Do I see 650? Somebody in the room does 650. Somebody in the room does 700. Somebody in the room does 750. And now notice over here on the left, this number is changing. Every time I submit a new bid, it's changing to the next amount. And so now the current bid is 850. The next bid is 900. And I'm like, I'll do that, 900. Yep, I'm good. I'm going to win this thing. And then as the volunteer spotter, I put my light up baton in the air and the auctioneer says, all right, we got 900 at home. Anybody else in the room? 950, 950. Okay, going once. 950, going twice. You know, we got 950 right here, right in the room. So now all of a sudden, at home, I've got nine. I'm like, I can't do 1,000. 950 was a stretch. All right, I'm out. I'm not going to do it. And the auctioneer says, going once, going twice, and sold. And then the volunteer presses sell. And now it says, oh, I didn't win the item. So that's okay. I've got 2 more items. And I can click on those, start them and sell them, just like I did the first one. Now, when we get to the appeal, it's a smooth transition. And the auctioneers, they're really good at this. They're like, okay, folks, we've come to that point of the program where we're looking for everybody to get out your wallets and show the organization how much you care by making a donation for the, counseling center office. We're going to build a really cool office downtown and we're going to set up counseling services for everybody. And we need to pay for this thing because it's going to cost a fortune, but we believe that it's important and we're looking for help funding it. So now the spotter, while the auctioneer is saying all this, clicks on donation items, fund a cause. And so I've gone ahead and set up a fund a cause item, and I have increments of 2,500, 1,000, 500, 250, 150, and other. And I'm in control, again, as the liaison between in-room and at home. So now at home, I see the auctioneers talking again. This fund a cause, we push down and we'd see the auctioneer talking to us in person and at home. Okay, folks, and everybody at home, I want you to see that $2,500. Go ahead and press that blue button. But if you're in here in the room, I want to see those paddles in the air. So the auctioneer says, oh, I see, thank you, number 127. Thank you, number 253. And then I give from home. And so I just gave, and now I've given $2,500 and my name shows up. And we can have, on those screens, we can have thank yous, we can put names, thermometers, all that stuff. to really move the audience toward that $50,000 goal. At home, I see now that I've given 2,500. Auctioneer says, well, maybe 2,500 wasn't the amount that made sense to you. Let's move down to $1,000. And as the volunteer, I go ahead and press 1,000 instead of 2,500, and you can see how this goes. I give $1,000, and then we're going to move all the way down to $50. And there's a really cool thing you can do here for last man standing, where everybody gives $50, and the last person to give $50 wins a really cool, experience package, or another parking spot or something like that. But every time somebody gives $50, that person's now winning, and then the next person to give 50 is winning, and the next person. You just keep going until you run out, and the last person with the $50 donation gets the item. But everybody's made those $50 donations, and you can do this from home just as you can do this from in person. And of course, we always have the other option. So that will pop up a little other box and so on. Now, when you're all done, you can tell the auctioneer can say, thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating. What a great night this has been. And again, he's still here talking, or the organizational director is still there talking. And then the auction closed. The auction will close tonight at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or even tomorrow at 5 p.m. Don't forget to get those bids in. Thank you so much. You can pay from your phones when the auction closes or for those donations. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone. And then they sign off. And now we come to the checkout experience. So the auction's over, the event's over, the broadcast can finish because the screens are just showing maybe a slideshow, or maybe you want to keep that going. But now it's time to do checkout. The nice thing is people can check out from their phones, and so they go right to the checkout table to pick up their items. They can also, pay at the table if they want to make a check or cash or other kind of payment. They can do that as well. But the nice thing is that because they pay from their phone, pickup can be very, very simple. The only complex thing is looking up which items they won and sending a runner to go pick up the items from the auction room. So sometimes during that period of time from if the auction closes before the live auction or with enough time, you can group items by winner and get them ready. But in the absence of that, I recommend having one or two what I call clerks at the table. And I think, yes, I did. Okay, I made a screen. We'll seated at this pickup table, and this is payments. So somebody can come up here and say, hey, I paid from my phone, and then I would go ahead and make that payment, and or give them the item numbers that I want. I can look it up. They write it on a piece of paper, and then somebody goes and grabs those auction items. They move down to the end of the table, and I take the next person. If they need to make a payment with credit card, they can do that as well, and then they can pick up those items. So this is a much smaller group of people than the check-in. So, like I said, if you focus on cutting down check-in, then the number of people that you need supporting your event goes way down, because when checkout occurs, you're only taking a subset of those attendees. It's people who won and need to pick up an auction item, instead of all 800 people that came in the door. So again, our goal is to try and reduce overhead and keep things as light and fast as possible. So I think, perfect, yes, that got us to the end of our presentation. I've got 3 minutes to spare. Like I said, I have all these ideas floating around in my head, and I just want to just send them all out there and try to give people good ideas for fall events. In keeping that spirit, I've been doing office hours since the end of last year, focusing those office hours on virtual events, how to set up broadcasting, how to set up, how to plan for video content and so on. But now that we're moving into hybrid events, I'll be transitioning these office hours on Tuesdays at 4, Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. I'll be talking about hybrid topics, how to set up the check-in screen so that people can check in, how to transition those guests to bidders and let them bid in the auction, how to plan your strategy, and how to do broadcasting. So I'll be available to help everybody. So thank you so much for being a part of this webinar. I plan on doing another one as we get further into the summer and keeping the word out there about how to do these incredible hybrid galas to really maximize your fundraising. So I'll stick around a little bit more. I'm going to look at the chat now and see if there's anything specific, but yep, you'll get a copy of this probably later today. I have time to put that up, and then I'll send out an email. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great afternoon, and we will be in touch. I do see one question here that I can answer. How do I attend office hours? If you go into your admin, you can we can send you the link in chat. But if you go into your admin, you can go to actually Event Central live broadcast, and then you can sign up for office hours here. But we'll also put office hours on our corporate website, clickbidonline.com. And I'm not sure we can. Yeah, I'll put them on our ClickBid website as well. So, all right. Thank you very much. You guys all have a great afternoon.